Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Surface. I'm Angela Bertone, your host. Today we're going to be talking about setting goals and the difference between goal setting ideas and something we're going to talk about that might be new to you, which is something called a worthy ideal. Now, worthy ideal came to me in studying Earl Nightingale's work, and he tells us that a worthy ideal is something quite different than just a generalized goal or an idea that you may come up with. A worthy ideal is actually a principle or a value that guides your actions, your decisions. And it's something that's very important to you, something that you have a really big why for. So you might say, I strive to live a life of kindness and compassion. And then you might expand that to, I'm going to live this life of kindness and compassion by writing books, inspirational speaking, and doing podcasts. Of course, you might figure out that's one of my worthy ideals, right? And so that's my example. Let's compare that to a specific goal, for example, which I might have a goal to write a series of books. And in that series of books, I'm going to gear them towards a specific age, and they might be a specific genre, and they may or may not be a series, right? It could be just 12 different books with no correlation, or they might be correlated with a specific topic. So that would be a goal. Writing a series of books might be a pretty big goal, but you could have a small goal like I'm going to write one book, and it's going to be a children's book, and it's going to be 400 words, something like that. An idea would be more of a concept that's going to spark creativity, like, man, it would be great if I could start a team that's going to be a group of people, and together we could do a podcast. No particular direction, no particular worthy idea of changing the world or a city or bringing something into a broad spectrum. It's just a general idea that's something you would love to do. Another idea might be like, man, I really would like to do a retreat, and I would like to do it on the beach with a bunch of women, and I would like for all these women to walk away feeling empowered. So again, we're talking about a goal, which is a specific, tangible, achievable aim, like a target. When you can see that target, you can hit that target. And then we're talking about an idea that may not have any long-term effects, but something you wanted to do and you want to create that idea and bring it to pass. Or a worthy ideal, which is something that is rooted in passion and a really important why. And the development and the journey itself is that worthy idea or ideal, and also the progressive action that's taken over time to realize that ideal. So if in working with the worthy ideal, if it feels too big, just start out with something simple, like a small achievable goal, something that resonates with you. And keep in front of you that Earl Nightingale's definition of success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Now, if you listen to my first podcast, which is the monologue, The Missing Link to the Ancient Secret, this podcast is an attempt to help you realize the worthy ideal by using that 30-day journal. If you haven't seen the 30-day journal, you can go look at the last podcast. There's a link there to Amazon. And there may or may not be a link yet on my webpage, but eventually that link will be there. Okay, so some of the research that I'd like you to consider in writing down goals is this. 42% of the people who write down, no, let me say that again. People who write down their goal are 42% more likely to achieve it. And that was done through a research by a person by the name of Gail Matthews. And that's super important because most people don't write down their goals. And who wants to be 42% less likely to achieve them, right? I want to be 100% to achieve my goal. It's not always the case, but that is what I aspire to do. So another thing that's going to help you to be more successful at attaining your goal is to be specific, make it a little bit challenging, but yet achievable. And then also to approach the goal that you have with as much motivation that you can create for yourself. So motivation is going to keep you on target, reaching for that goal until that goal is attained. And motivation is not something that is easily acquired. So we're going to talk more about the motivation part in this podcast and podcasts in the future. But one of the most important things you can do to start the motivation is to have a why and then to actually make the decision to do it. Okay. To succeed, not only do we need to keep that end goal in mind, but we also need to keep up with our daily activities that's going to allow us to bring that goal to pass, right? So first we want to know the no, and we need to have our why, but we also need to have like a daily to-do list. I'm about to introduce you to something that's subconsciously working in all of us every single time we set a goal, every single time we make a decision, and every time we have an idea or we're working towards a worthy ideal. There's a part of your brain that is activated, and that part of your brain is called the reticular activating system. Sometimes you'll hear me call it your RAS. So this is a part of your brain that is a network of filters. It also prioritizes that which it deems as important based on your past experiences. And because you've made that decision, your brain, that part of your brain, the RAS, jumps up to the plate and says, oh, this is something important. It's so important that Angela made a decision. I need to get on board. I'm going to give you a very specific example that you've probably experienced before to help you understand this. So not only does it filter and prioritize, but it also problem solves all the time, whether you're aware of it or not, whether you're awake or not, no matter what brainwave you're in, like a delta brainwave of deep sleep or a theta brainwave, or you could be learning a new activity or reading a book, and in the background, that RAS is still at work. So here's the example. Let's say you decide that you need a new vehicle, and you decide that you want a four-wheel drive because you like to take it hunting and fishing and you don't want to get stuck and not be able to get out. And so you decide you want a four-wheel drive. And you also decide that you want it to be small enough, like maybe a small SUV, that you could lay down the seat in the back and you could carry whatever it is you need to go hunting and fishing. And if you can't tell by now, that was my last automobile and I still have it and I love it. And I also wanted it to be white because I wanted it to not be hot in the summer. I live in Louisiana. And I didn't want a big car note, right? So that's what I thought, and I made that decision. And as soon as I made that decision, something happened that I didn't even realize that I had learned about this years ago until it was very, very obvious. And that is my RAS kicked in. And every time I would get on the road to drive somewhere, I would see every white SUV on the interstate, on the back roads. Didn't matter where I was going. I saw white SUVs, big ones, little ones. And my brain, once it saw if it was too big, it would just filter it out till I found the one that I wanted. So what was going on? Why is it that white SUVs are always there, but my brain didn't notice them until I made a clearly defined decision, right? I had that idea to get a new vehicle. I needed one. I made the decision, and then I began to decide exactly what I want that vehicle to be and why, and my RAS kicked in. And you guys, it does that with every decision you make, no matter how big or how small. So let's think about this for just a couple of minutes. What if you wanted to have a particular dream or idea come to pass, or a worthy ideal that you've been dreaming about for years, and you took the next 30 days and you use this information, not only from the monologue podcast, but from today, and you began to define your goal. And that goal grew in ideas. And then your goal and your idea turned into goals, plural, and ideas until you crafted this worthy ideal that gave you purpose every morning when you get up. that when you go to bed at night, you felt like amazing that you did this or that or something else that was progressively moving towards that worthy ideal, which is Earl's definition of success. And because you did that, you were motivated and you had improved focus and you began to birth ideas and problem solve. Your creativity grew and you began to make better and better decisions because every day for 30 days, you got up and thought about your worthy ideal. Not only did you think about it, but if you follow the monologue journal workbook, you would also feel what it felt like as though it was already done. So you might feel freedom. You might feel excitement. You might feel relief. You might feel generosity. You might feel connected. You might feel love and gratitude. And the feeling, as you learned before in the monologue, is the most powerful part of your worthy ideal. You can take 100 people, all doing the same task, same job, same desired end in mind, but those who don't add the heightened state of emotion and see it as though it's already done and feel it so the body believes it's done, only 5% will succeed. So we want to change that. Imagine if we could get 95% people succeeding instead of 5%. That's one of my definitions, if you will, in my worthy ideal. I don't want to live the rest of my life and that percentage still be only 5% succeed. I want you to succeed. And you and you and you and everyone else. I believe that we all have the possibility of success. And I dream in my worthy ideal, when I do my meditation, I dream of seeing the whole world. I know that's kind of grandiose, but it's the way I do it. I see the whole world in joy, in excitement, in relief that the human condition has been transformed. And that is through love. So that's my worthy ideal. And that's a definition for you for goals, ideas, and worthy ideals, and how you can use your reticular activating system to get your body in gear. So it's subconscious processing, background processing, brain waves, and that part of your body has been working for you all along. It's always been doing it. It's always going to do it. And you can work with it to get your creative breakthrough today and every day. I'm Angela Bertone. Thank you for joining me.